Hollow Knight, Soul and Magic, written by Uncharted Chip 38, Chapter 2, Remastered. After some awkward staring from both parties, the purple unicorn finally got her nerves together and walked up to the two vessels. She tried her best to be friendly despite the rest of her body literally shaking in fear somewhat by the sheer awe overwhelming her. "Hello, my name is Twilight Sparkle, student of Celestia and bearer of the element of magic." The ever so gentle but Grim gave a bow as a response. His manners had no wane despite being in a new land, juxtaposing his actual being. "A pleasure, bearer of magic. You may call me Grim, king of nightmares and troop master." This response got everyone in the throne room on edge as Grim chuckled. "Calm down, I don't bite. We don't seek destruction, we only appear when destruction has already happened." Sensing the intensity rising among the guards, who now had their spears pointed at Grim, it spoke. "You may call me Vessel, or Ghost. A friend once called me Little Ghost, but I was much smaller then. You can trust I will not pursue any harm to anyone. I have fulfilled my purpose in my own kingdom." When introductions were properly ended, Celestia then began to explain. "Twilight, I want you and the other elements of harmony to get these two acquainted within Equestria. They don't mean harm to us, but I do want reports for however much time they spend with you. In the meantime, I and Luna will try to find this kingdom that they came from and hopefully find them a way back. From what we know, they arrived here out of normal means. You can count on me, princess. I know just how to get them used to this kingdom." Twilight smiled before turning to the two vessels. "You don't mind if I ask a lot of questions about your kingdom and you too?" Grim responded. "Not at all, we are all friends here. Although, let it be on our way to wherever you are taking us. I am no fan of such brightness within this castle, beautiful as it may be." Vessel, better to call it Ghost, turned back to the princesses. "What of my equipment? May I have them back?" Luna answered with a nod. "Yes, the guards will hand your plate and various items back to you on your way out. Take care." With the princess's blessing, the guards did indeed have Ghost's nail into their items for it to take back. Twilight let them out of the castle, quite expertly since it had a lot of long hallways that reminded Ghost of the White Palace. He shivered at the thought, too many saws and spikes. His father must have been a masochist or some sort of sadistic to think that was a worthy training course. How many vessels fell to the machinations of that place? Ghost looked up and suddenly stopped as it found itself back at the White Palace. The previous appearance of Candlelit Castle having just disappeared around him with neither Twilight nor Grim being within eyesight. It seemed to have been transported right back to the throne room as said throne was in front of him. With someone he knew. It saw the pale king in front of it, clothed in glorious white robes and radiating such pale radiance that it almost was beginning to burn Ghost's void eyes. Father. Ghost dropped to its knees, an emotion of longing and hope welled inside its chest. It was so overwhelming that it forced the void being to look straight to the floor and clutch its chest in pain. Like a searing wound boring itself into it. The pale king only gave it up before speaking. "You have done well, my vessel. Where many have failed before you, even the best, you have succeeded. The radiance has been vanquished and the void has been tamed by your very being. My gambit had paid off. However, your path is not done. More dangers will arise, especially those that could destroy Halaunist. What little that remains of it but Halaunist is ruined. What is there to destroy?" Ghost questioned of its father's statement. Such a ludicrous thing as there was hardly a sin bug left that hadn't already been infected or killed off by its own hands. "I have little time to say. Find the Godseekers, that is your new mission. They will know what to do," the pale king stated before he vanished in a mist of white essence. The pain fading quickly as the palace around Ghost also beginning to vanish as well. Before Ghost could reach out to try and catch its father, it found himself back at the Candlelit Palace. Grim and Twilight were looking at him in concern as he was actually releasing streams of void from its eyes that began to make a small pool on the floor. Thankfully none of the guards noticed this occurring, or they might have interpreted in the worst way possible. Grim was the first to speak after lending a hand to help Ghost rise. "My friend, are you alright?" You began to space out. "Moreover, I faintly felt the worm's presence within this place." Ghost took a moment to rub the void tears out of its eyes. The black liquid being absorbed back into its body. "I saw him, my father." The pale king. Twilight raised a brow. One of her hundreds of questions began to form. Who's the pale king? Was he a ruler? Was he powerful? Tell me more. As they left the palace and headed towards the station, with Twilight leading the way, Ghost began to explain. The pale king was a worm, a godlike being that became a bug like us. He gave the surrounding bugs a mind of their own when they were no more than beasts. With his power, he created and ruled over Halaunist. But for all of his power in bringing bugs together, he angered an ancient god of the Moth tribe. The Radiance was the name that it was referred to, so my father made a desperate measure. He made a deal with the void to create me and thousands of scimitar vessels, thousands of siblings. Twilight asked in awe and wonder, paying for the tickets of the train without a second thought. The mayor in the ticket office looking at the two vessels with a terrified look as she took the money quickly and ducked under the desk. Despite the looks they were getting from the locals, Ghost was too lost in his explanation and memories while Twilight was too enraptured with the story. Only Grim felt uncomfortable with the stares they got, but at the same time, he began to feel the essence of this place become so strong. A feeling that began igniting a certain desire within himself that he no doubt must abide. While Equestria may not be a dead kingdom, there was too much essence to ignore. Yes, thousands of failures. Cast down into the abyss to die for their flaws. Only one of us was hollow enough for the Pale King to take with him. I escaped the abyss and found my way into Halaunist, where the vessel chosen to take the Radiance had failed. It was corrupted by the Radiance because our father loved it. He thought it was perfect, unlike the rest of us, Ghost explained further. It paused as it looked outside towards the clear sky momentarily before boarding the train that began roaring its horn. They got onto the train and took their seats in the back. Being as discreet as possible and also being thankful that there were few other ponies within the train car to stare at them. But Twilight was too shocked beyond belief that Ghost revealed how he was cast down to die by his own father. All because it wasn't perfectly hollow and only one of its kin was chosen to become the Hollow Knight. How horrible. No father should ever have to do that to their own children. No matter what mistakes occur within you, or what failures you make. That must have broken your spirits to be cast aside like that, Twilight argued, getting angry at the thought of such crimes. You misunderstand. Ghost argued back, preventing the unicorn from letting our anger flare. We were born without mind or voice. Unbreakable will to try and contain the radiance. We were soulless bugs of void, empty shells holding an ancient power. We were no better than the mindless bugs, it finished with a sigh. Twilight was confused by this information. Then how did you get a mind and voice? Did you develop one after surviving? Or maybe it's the magic from Equestria that allowed you to become your own person. Ghost was about to reply, but Twilight's words stunned it momentarily. It looked at its hands once more and wondered if Luna had given him a gift of being able to talk and think. This had to be a just reward to destroying the Radiance. Although, it figured that it still owed Twilight a bit of an explanation how it and Grim got here. I fought the Radiance in Godome, empowered by the Godseekers. Just when the Radiance thought it had destroyed me, I used the void to empower myself, and I can't remember anything after that. I woke up here and found myself having thoughts, then Princess Luna broke a seal to unlock my growth and voice. Ghost explained further, I believe this kingdom has some sort of effect on me like you said, or maybe I had died. Twilight put a hoop to her chin and thought about all the information that she received. Did the peace of this kingdom have an effect on Ghost? He came from a kingdom plagued by infection and combat. Maybe a lack of magic prevented the vessel from able to unlocking its own growth and becoming more powerful than before. As she thought, Grim had decided to sleep and Ghost began to drift off again. The trip to Ponyville would be long, so it was a good thing they slept while they could. You think you could escape us, God of Gods? Hell, stop the void. You may have, but you only brought us to a new land full of gods. With this, we thank thee. Thou art so generous to have us serve you dutifully. Ghost awoke to find itself on a stone bench with Grim, but the area around him was Godome, not the train cart. It got up and began to explore, looking for the main Godseeker herself. The other seekers bowed to Ghost as it passed, knowing of his great power back in Halaunist. Although, they only did so because of said power, or they would have looked the other way. Eventually, Ghost made its way to the peak of Godome, where it had fought the Radiance for the last time. Godseeker, the main one that had put Ghost through all the pantheons, was staring out into new scenery. Instead of the bright sun that was the Radiance, there was now a bright sun and moon. If Ghost had a guess, it must be a reference to Celestia and Luna. Just like how they were able to observe that pale lady despite her own power having waned significantly since the fall. Godseeker turned towards Ghost, looking well pleased and not infected by the void despite what happened earlier. God of Gods, it is good thou hast come to us. No gods are in this land, so many for us to handle. Most are asleep, but we trust thee and God of nightmares to awaken them. What's this? The eye mind is free, Godseeker said in astonishment as she could feel Ghost's newly freed mind and emotions. Being so attuned to the vessel allowed Godseeker to glimpse into its now open mind while she hadn't before. A most curious thing. But Ghost was not here to have idle talk. There was the words of the Pale King that had to be followed. Godseeker, the Pale King revealed himself to me. Help me find him and stop these gods that might be a threat to this land. Godseeker humble. She turned towards the sun and moon in the distance. We could, but the Pale King's radiance is hidden. Our power is lacking in order to find him, for we have been reduced despite the eye power rising. Destroy the gods of this land and we may be able to find him. Attunement is the only way. Ghost raised a brow, but remembered that the Godseekers needed combat to have better attunement. Wait, how am I here in Godom while I'm sleeping? Godseeker giggled in amusement to Ghost's lack of putting the pieces together. Is thou forget we are attuned to thee, God of gods? No need for mortal shells when thy power is enough to shield us from these creatures. Ghost wanted to learn further, but a bright light blinded it into awoke to find that the train had stopped. The sudden motion causing the vessel to bump into Grimm's side, awakening the King of Nightmares. Twilight was busy writing a letter while sitting on one of the nearby seats. When she saw them awake, she put away her letter and pen before getting off her seat. Before we head over to the library, I want you two to meet one of my best friends, Twilight began before she began to consider the reaction her friend might have, but decided just Grimm alone. She wasn't a fan of dark things and the Nightmare King wasn't helping his case. Just don't scare her or the filly's. Ghost looked at Grimm with a knowing look, which Grimm looked confused. What? Am I really that scary? Surely the children would love us. I have the utmost experience in raising them. I'm confident your friend will warm up to me very quickly once they see I am not a threat. Ghost paid the words no mind as it too considered what would this friend would think of it. Naturally, it felt the mask keeping the shape contained but found a crack running down the middle. It must have been the scar the radiance had afflicted it when the Shape Lord was summoned. No, it was the very last thing that happened before any memories were snuffed out. Twilight led the way once more with the two in tow. Grimm kept himself a few paces behind to observe the town they were now roaming across. Bigger than the abandoned settlement of Dirtmouth and having much more life but too bright for him. Many of the locals, who had been going on their daily business, stopped to see the newly arrived creatures. Several of them running away in an instant. What would have been insulting to some was humorous for the Nightmare King as he let out a chuckle from these peaceful ponies cowering in fear from just his appearance. After some time traveling down the road, and unintentionally scaring a lot of other ponies, a large field could be seen from the road they walked, including a red barn in the distance. This was unfamiliar territory for both vessels since they have never seen farms like this before. Then again, they were bugs from a different world. As they got closer to the farm, they saw a trio of fillies of various species around something. Before Twilight could say anything, the trio of fillies revealed some sort of large boat on wheels. At least, that's what the vessel's view did as, and the trio hopped onto it before taking off on the road towards them. At first, the vessels saw that they were having fun on their new contraction, but their look of happiness quickly changed into one of terror as one of them tried turning a circular object. The object broke off and they were beginning to pick up speed. It was almost comical, if it wasn't heading right for them. Look out! One of the three yelled. Grimm instinctively poured away in a mist of flame while Ghost grabbed Twilight and jumped off to the side. The rolling terror passed them as Twilight looked in horror. You got to stop those three before they crash. Grimm had reappeared by this point, looking at the speeding away cart with a neutral expression. I'm afraid we won't be able to see. Ghost got into a crouching stance before several pink crystals formed around it, shooting off like a bullet as the crystals shattered below. Twilight, and even Grimm, stood there in shock as Ghost caught up to the speeding trio of fillies. While still holding on to momentum generated by the crystal dash ability, it grabbed each one by the scruff of their necks before grabbing its nail and smashing the car down with a single strike. The purified nail would make easy work of the simple wooden structure, shattering it into pieces. Once the card was thoroughly pulverized, Ghost forced its momentum to slow down to a halt, landing on its 2 feet safely with the three fillies safe and held in one of the arms. They were fascinated with a being such as it, a simple mask hiding the shape beneath and being so tall compared to them. It wasn't every day they got to see something stand on 2 legs or even look like a vessel such as Ghost. Thanks mister, we thought we were done for, the orange-coated and purple-maned filly said. Ghost gave a nut before getting down to its knees to make the size difference between them much smaller. It was of no consequence. What were you three doing with that? Just getting our cutie marks, the yellow one with a red mane answered with confidence. You're what? Ghost questioned in confusion. What in Hellyness was a cutie mark? Was it a spell of binding or one of the many charms that Ghost acquired when pursuing its goal? Are markings that show everyone what we're talented at. Say, was yours? You don't look like you have one. In fact, you don't look like you are from around here, the white one said, observing Ghost. She began poking his void body and finding it quite a strange feeling. No heat or cold radiating from it and a fur or skin unlike them. We are most certainly not children. We have come to this kingdom under some odd circumstances that we are still wondering ourselves. The voice of Grimm was heard behind the trio. That three turned around to face Grimm, one of them being nervous, another looking in awe, and the last having a neutral expression. Are you some sort of magician? Grimm merely chuckled, despite his appearance and the aura he was emanating. The fillies were an odd bunch, all ready to have any form of bravery to him while others would cower in fear. No, no. Much more. The nightmare heart seeks to sustain itself and I am its vessel through the use of my troop. So you're a performer? The yellow one asked, not taking Grimm's words very seriously. Grimm mused in response, yes, I am a performer. Sadly, I am lost without my troop with only my companion to keep me company. Twilight galloped over, looking content. The three fillies were alright, thanks again, Ghost. I have never seen a night pony go that fast. Save for the pedicity. Ghost gave a nod. It was not that much of a challenge since he had dealt with much worse obstacles. It looked over to the fillies, and what might your names be? Scootaloo, the orange one said Appleblom, the yellow one added Sweetie Belle, the white one finished We Are the Cutie Mark Crusaders. All three announced, doing a pose that only made Ghost remember the 5 great knights of Halaunist. Many of them perishing while only Evrim was the only knight still alive to lament his fallen friends. But, despite that, he seemed to keep a cheery mood and did not lose any of his battle prowess. Ghost got up to do a short bow to the CMC. You may call me Ghost, the vessel of Halaunist. One of the last living vessels left alive and trained under many of the Nail Masters. So you're a knight? Scootaloo said, right at Ghost's feet with white eyes of curiosity. The little orange Pegasus wrapped her hooves around its leg and wasn't taken aback by the body made of void. Ghost simply replied, in a manner of speaking, yes. But never officially teach us your ways, O wise one. Teach us how to be knights as well, Sweetie Belle said, all three of the Crusaders prostrating themselves with Twilight's not as amused by their antics. It wasn't the first time they tried to get someone with any form of renown to teach them. Absolutely not. Applejack, Rarity and Rainbow Dash would never let you three train under a stranger, Twilight argued, fearing the three of her friends getting angry for Twilight allowing this to happen. Well, maybe Rainbow Dash, but only because she was a bit more reckless than the former two. Grimm only chuckled as he saw an opportunity arise. Oh, but why not, Twilight? They are just wanting to learn how to defend themselves in case something terrible happened. I teach my children how to fend for themselves all the time. It wouldn't be right to deny them the opportunity for self-improvement. Ghost gave Grimm an annoyed look with the Crusaders crowding around it. Grimm, they're children. They shouldn't have to face terrors like what was in Halaunist. Even the most minor bug would be too much for them. This response made the Crusaders hang their heads low in sadness before they pulled the ultimate trump card, the cute eyes trick. Ghost, when he wasn't introduced with thoughts and feelings, would be able to simply stare at them without blinking. Now, he was beginning to feel a bit guilty for letting these three not learn from him. He was their savior, and he was a child when he took on his quest, in vessel standards. What was the difference between it and the three little fillies before him who simply wanted its expertise in combat? Although they lacked any actual arms to wield a nail properly. After a minute of silence and exposure to the ultimate trump card, Ghost sighed in defeat. I'll teach you three something. Just some nail techniques, because I'm sure the nail masters wouldn't be opposed for their lessons to be passed on. But this is only between us. Twilight pursued while Grimm was amused that Ghost's newfound feelings were being twisted into a weakness, as long as they don't get hurt. Whatever happens to them will be your responsibility. Ghost Appleblom pulled on Ghost's cloak to get his attention. I got to show you to my family. Applejack would really like to meet you. Ghost gave a nut before the Crusaders, with Twilight, led the way to the farmhouse. As they walked, Ghost gave Grimm an annoyed look, making the Nightmare King smile mockingly. What was Grimm thinking under those red eyes of his? Why couldn't I just be a shade in the abyss? Ghost thought to himself.